Well, that leads me into transitioning into Blackstone Labs. So 2 years passes by. So right now, Blackstone Labs is being run by your business partner,
Yeah.
right? And how is it doing now? Obviously, it probably went down in sales and stuff after you went to jail. But is it okay? Is it kind of growing back and revenue's growing, or how are things right now?
So when I first got out, before I knew that I couldn't be a part of it, and I was like, "Give me the scoop on everything that's going on."
Yeah.
I couldn't believe how bad it was. The industry, yes, I agree with you, is very saturated now,
Mhm.
and the biggest fact now is, and I don't care anybody who wants to debate this,
Mhm.
it's having a powerful influencer at the top
Okay.
of your brand.
Did you craziest prison story, if you don't mind? Like, what happened? The craziest thing you saw in there?
So, I mean, I've seen the craziest thing that I saw a lot of messed up stuff with this drug called K2 that I never even heard of, right?
Okay.
It's like some sort of synthetic marijuana, but these guys spray it on paper and they get it in and it turns them into zombies. So I saw a guy at the detention center literally passed out, flipped over the bars, and like knocked his whole face apart.
Oh.
Guards, right? You've got two completely different kinds of guards, but I've found that they're the same in every prison, and most other guys that I talk to that are locked down agree. You've got
Yeah.
your big, fat, black lesbian women, and they're
Oh.
the meanest ones, bro. They're so mean. And then you got your redneck white meathead guys.
Yeah.
Now, your average pro bodybuilder isn't going to bring in any money. And
No.
it's no disrespect. There's a lot of
No.
great bodybuilders out there. People just don't care as much about bodybuilding as they used to.
Yeah. So you're okay. Let's go right into Olympia picks then. If you no particular order, if you want any particular order, your top six
Sure.
for this open men's bodybuilding.
I think that number one is going to be Derek Lunsford. I think it's
Okay.
based on what I've seen in the training videos and everything. I
Yeah.
think we're going to see him level up even more. I I have heard that it is difficult to work with Fouad because he has a lot of restrictions on what he wants his guys to do. I think Samson, it's like the structure and the size is there, but when he hits some of the back shots, for instance, it doesn't come out at you the way that, like, when Ronnie Coleman would hit his back
Yeah.
shots and you just saw everything. You don't
Yes.
have that. It just doesn't wow you like that.
All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Muscle Discord, and we got a very special guest on the show today, PJ Braun. Man, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Man, well, I know you've been through a lot. You've been going on some other podcasts, and kind of now that you're just recently out of prison. How long has it been since you got out of prison?
So I got sent from the camp to the halfway house last November. And
Okay.
I stayed at the halfway house until just after Thanksgiving. And then they sent me to home confinement, house arrest until June. So started probation in June.
June. Okay. So you're kind of free and clear in a sense, starting as of June, pretty much, of this year.
Sort of, yeah.
So yeah, yeah, you're still on probation. Like you're still on
I
probation.
have so many more restrictions than I expected. So
Yeah, it's. I watched some of the other podcasts and just to kind of get all caught up because there's so much going on with you
yeah.
over the years, and it was just good to kind of like go back and like, wow, that was pretty crazy what happened to you. And so just to kind of give a Cole's Notes version for our viewers that may not be up to speed, kind of give us a breakdown of like first off like how you started Blackstone Labs, then
Sure.
how you kind of linked up with Aaron Singerman, and then how you ended up in prison, federal prison after all that.
Yeah. So I was in the industry since 2003. I, started out as a competitive bodybuilder, and Junior USA's 2006, I did my first, national level show. I got fourth in the heavyweights. I met Dave Palumbo. He started coaching me. He made me the face of his company, Species Nutrition. And, I got to, travel around all over. It was amazing. It was a lot of fun, but there was not much money in it. And so
Yes.
when I was, I had a long talk with my parents when I was young, because although they were supportive, they were kind of, especially my grandpa, who was the father figure in my life, thought I was wasting my intelligence, right? So I was like, listen, if I can't make it to be, the top 5 best in the world by the time I'm 30, I'll retire and I'll put all my effort into, a business.
Smart. Yeah.
So USA's came, and 30 years old, it was the worst placing I ever had. And I was like, it's not in the cards for me. I'm good, but I'm taking a lot of gear. I'm not going to be great. I just knew. I could have tried to grind it out for 10 more years to say I did it, but it just, for me, I had other things that I felt like I wanted to accomplish. So, I actually, USA's that year was July 24th. I started Blackstone Labs September 1st. I had moved out to California to be with a girl that I was dating.
Okay.
And I left California. Aaron Singerman was down in Boca. Actually, he was in Tampa, but he had
what year was this? What year is this? Do we have a timeline?
This is 2012.
Okay. Okay.
So he was like, man, come down to Florida. You'll love it down here. This is the place to start a business.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what, man, I thought I was going to do it out here, but I think I'm just going to go back to New York. That's where all my family is. And he was like, I'm telling you, man, you'll love it down here. And he had just moved to Boca because he had gotten Darielle pregnant and they were going to get married.
Yeah.
So I admit, man, he was right. I flew down to Boca. He picked me up at the airport. We went to Delray Beach, man. He had like a vodka and OJ ready for me at like 10 o'clock when I got off the plane in the morning. And I fell in love with it down there. So I was like, listen, I've been saving money up for years and I want to do my own thing. We were both working with another company called Iron Mag Labs.
Yes.
And he was in a tough spot because he was working with Palumbo at RX Muscle at the time. He was also head of sales at Iron Mag Labs. So it was a complete conflict of interest for him. So I was like, listen, I'm going to just start this off. And, when you're ready, come on over. And I knew with him, he was just the best salesman, like he was the guy. We used to kind of like give each other shots because I would always say like, you're the ass kisser, and he would get so mad when I would say that, but he was the guy that would schmooze all the deals. Like to me, I was like, listen, I designed it this way, take it or don't take it, but so when I started Blackstone, that first year, I started in September. By December 31st of that year, I had done $200,000 in sales off of one product, our original product, the Super DMZ. So when we came out with the Super DMZ 2.0, we had really smart people around us, Patrick Arnold, like guys that knew chemistry that we were able to meet through Palumbo and other people and just pick their brains. So we knew about methylstenbolone right away. So we reformulated it with methylstenbolone. The original version was Superdrol, which was, the original Gaspari Halotrol, great product, but they banned it.
Yeah. So
our version had methylstenbolone and dimethazine. That was our first product. Continued to put more products out. The second year that I was in business, about halfway through the year, Aaron came over. And when he came over, so my first year we did 200,000. The second year we did 1.2 million. But once he came over, he started taking over the sales. He was like, look, you be the face, design the products. I'm going to get us everywhere else. And
so you started the company on your own, basically, and then Aaron came in after.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So the first year or so, I was packaging all the products, writing up all the customer service, bringing it to the post office every step of the way. Yeah. So, once he came in, he started taking over, pushing the sales aspect of it. We were able to grow and do different things. Yeah. And, the company grew. We became, our fourth year, we're the Inc. 500, 27th fastest growing company in the United States.
Yeah.
So when they raided the facility, which was in 2017, it was a crazy time because that year we had a lot of turmoil. Like my at the time wife filed for divorce. We had another partner who was a silent investor who was convinced that Aaron was embezzling from the company. So they were at war. Then me and Aaron, I admit, were also at war. And that was public for a while.
Yeah.
And then the FDA comes in and raids the facility. And they clean out everything, all the inventory, everything else. And really the only reason that the company even survived is because, and it's the crazy, I always say about crazy timing, Jared Wheat, who is the current owner of Blackstone Labs, he bought out the other partner literally 2 months before that happened.
Wow. Okay.
So when he came into the company, he was like, listen, I don't want to be involved with those old pro hormones that you guys used to do, which we were like, fine. So we didn't even know why they were raiding us. We actually thought it was probably related to Jared because they're always messing with him over 1,3-dimethylamine and things like that. It wasn't until 2019 where they unsealed all the documents, and it turns out it was for that first product that we ever sold. So their whole position was that they hit us with conspiracy charges saying that we knew that that product should have been on the banned list, that it was similar to products on the banned list, and we didn't care. We just wanted to make money. We didn't care about people's safety, whatever. But our whole position was it's not on the banned list.
Yeah.
You guys messed up, not us, not guilty. And, Jared knows the best attorneys in the country for FDA stuff. So we had a dream team of it. Each one of the people in the case had an attorney appointed by Jared's team. And then the company Blackstone had its specific own attorney. So we fought that thing for years. And then unfortunately, in the end, people just started getting tired of fighting and working out their deals. And, eventually once one person goes, then the whole thing falls apart. So, and then they eventually sentenced me to 54 months in prison. So
that's how it all went down. Okay, so now you're in prison, and Aaron doesn't go to prison. He just kind of cooperates and ends up paying a certain amount of money, restitution or whatever.
He did do prison time also, though.
Oh, he did. Oh, yes. I'm not forgetting. Yeah, of course he went. Yeah, he got out quicker.
A lot faster. So.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna get into a few more things. Prison life.
Yes.
Because I watched some of your interviews, but you didn't really talk about like what was your daily routine in prison. Like, how did you mentally? You went from living the lavish lifestyle, company owner, cars, trips, and now you're in prison. Like, what happened to you in there? Did it change you for the better?
It did, and I will tell you the way that I had to do it. Although for a while I was like, why is this happening to me?
Yeah.
It was a blessing because a lot of white collar criminals, they get to just go self-surrender themselves. But my judge is completely against that. So even though I have, no violence on my record, and at first time offender, they sentenced me, they cuffed me right there. They pulled me away from my family, threw me in county jail. I was in 2 different county jails. Then I was on a bus to the detention center in Miami. And Miami, I was locked down 23 hours a day in the detention center in Miami. And I was there for a couple months. It was terrible in there. And you see some real criminals in the detention center. Then they took me on a bus. They shackle you up with a bunch of other guys, put you on a bus. And they took me up to Atlanta, which is the oldest federal prison in the United States. And that's like a castle, that place. And I was there for 30 days. And again, in Atlanta, they only let us out 3 times a week just to shower and use the phone real quick.
Wow.
So it's like, man, you're like, when you get out, like for me, I would get out of my cell and I would run over. They had this little bootleg like bookshelf. Yeah. And I'd just try to find books that had the cover or had all the pages. You know what I mean? Like, okay, this is half of this book. This is this. Bring them back into my room just so I'd have something to do being locked down all that time. So by the time I got to the camp, you have a lot more freedom at the camp. At the camp, you're required to get a job, do all these things. So when I got to the camp, I got really, I've always been extremely regimented. You know how it is being a bodybuilder.
Yes.
We thrive in structure. So I got into, they opened the yard at 5 a.m. There was no weights there, but I would go out to the yard, work out at 5, come back in, shower, you have to be ready by your cube at 7 a.m. for inspection.
Okay.
And then I was in the RDAP program, which is a very difficult therapeutic community, but if you complete it, you get a year off your sentence. So, that was a blessing. So I program until 11, and then I would do my job, which was, I eventually became the head orderly of my building. So it's basically like the janitor for the building.
Yeah.
Do that till 4 o'clock would come, count time, go eat dinner. I'd walk around for like an hour, and then I'd go into my cell, and I would just, it's not a cell, it's a cube. You're in a bay. So I would just read until, close to bed. 9:30, there was a group of guys that would get together and pray every night. And I wound up getting really close with those guys. Good. And then just repeat. It was like Groundhog's Day in there.
Craziest prison story, if you don't mind, like what happened, the craziest thing you saw in there?
So, I've seen the craziest thing that I saw a lot of messed up stuff with this drug called K2 that I never even heard of. Right.
Okay.
It's like some sort of synthetic marijuana, but these guys spray it on paper and they get it in and it turns them into zombies. So I saw a guy at the detention center literally passed out, flipped over the bars, and like knocked his whole face apart on the ground like crazy. And he was so out of it, he didn't even realize it. I've seen other guys tweaking out bad where there's multiple guards holding them down. They're screaming and freaking out. Like, to me, it was crazy that anybody would want to even try smoking that stuff, but it's amazing how many guys do it. For me, I stayed out of trouble for the most part. I will tell you a funny ass story though, because I've told the haircut story. I don't want to tell repeat stories on here, but so all of the guards, right? You've got two completely different kinds of guards, but I've found that they're the same in every prison, and most other guys that I talk to that are locked down agree. You've got your big, fat, black, lesbian women, and they are the meanest ones, bro. They're so mean. And then you got your redneck white meathead guys, right?
Yes.
So it was a push and pull of I would kiss the women's ass. Yes, ma'am, always. They knew that I was like not a problem, right?
Yeah.
But if they were very like sticklers about contraband and things like that.
Yeah.
So I had a guy who worked off the base, and basically like if you got the guy cash out money, he'd bring you in whatever you wanted. So of all the things to smuggle in, guys are smuggling in drugs and stuff. He smuggled me in some resistance bands. And good ones, we have no weights. So, you can do a lot with that. So now I had to be very careful because people will tell on you or people will try to steal them. So I always worked out at 5 a.m. because there's no guards out there that time. Well, one day there was a change in the scheduling and I had to work out at like 8.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there doing a set of lateral raises, right? Mm-hmm. And it's funny because it's me. There's a few other guys working out and I'm not paying attention. I usually was really good about being aware. 2 guards are just walking right towards me. And I'm like, damn, I'm hit. I can't believe it. I'm going to get They're going to take me to the lieutenant's office. I'm going to get time added onto my sentence. How am I going to tell this to my girl?
Yeah.
And the guy gets over to me, and he was the one guy that was way bigger than the other guys. He's like, hey, Braun. He's like, okay, you mind if I ask you some questions? And I just acted like I was totally cool, like with the resistance bands, that it wasn't contraband. I'm like, yeah, of course. He's like, what do you know about trend? And I was like, I started laughing, and I was like, I knew that you got on trend because you got so much bigger and more vascular all of a sudden. And he started laughing. So I'm like telling him directions on how to cycle his stuff. And the other guy's like fascinated.
Yeah.
And they stay there, and I'm working out with the bands the whole time, like it's no big deal. And they left. The 2 guys that were there, they were like, man, I thought you were hit. And I was like, me too. I just try to act like it was normal. And they were like, man, you got lucky. So I was like, I was very fortunate in the sense that like some of the guys were bodybuilding fans. So it worked out really good for me in that sense.
Good. Yeah. Distracted them. So they just didn't pay attention to the bands. All right. Well, so now you're out of prison and I know you're still restricted. How long is the probation? Was it 3 years?
3 years. Yep.
So you got like almost 2 years left, I guess, man. So you're doing your training business. Well, you can't really even do that. I think I heard that.
Man,
so
they've denied me everything so far. I'm working for Excel Racing up the street. They do auto fancy tunes on cars and automobiles.
Okay.
I'm kind of like a I guess you'd call me like a assistant, I suppose, to the owner.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's actually been training with me every morning. I guess that's our relationship
Oh,
now.
okay. Okay.
The issue is I am not allowed to, while I'm on probation, I'm not allowed to start any business. I'm not allowed to own or operate any business, period, at all.
In any industry.
I couldn't even start a car wash, like
Okay.
spraying
Jeez.
cars
What the
down.
fuck? It's like the
And
restrict.
I'm also not allowed to work in any industry related to dietary supplements, and that is very vague. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I can't. They're like, you can't even go into a GNC. Now, odds are, if I went in to buy something from GNC, who would know? But
No.
let's say I wanted to manage one, they wouldn't approve it. I can't be around anything. So their whole position is, if you're going to be coaching, I have to work through somebody else. I've got to get hired as an employee that will then meet with my probation officer and make sure they understand that I am not going to be involved with dietary supplements, telling people anything about dietary supplements. If you would think that I murdered somebody with the restrictions that I had.
That's ridiculous, because they don't want you to go be a repeat offender and go back to prison because you're struggling and you're trying to fucking do shit or whatever. So it's just stupid, the system there. But you're hanging in there. You got a good girl by your side. Now, did I hear you're getting married? What was what's happening here?
Yeah, I'm getting married actually in the next few days. We
Awesome!
kept it
Congratulations.
secret for a while. Thank you.
Yeah.
Small wedding. I got a couple of my good buddies coming in. Guy Sister Nino will be there. He's always fun to have her out. And we have a baby coming too.
Oh, I saw the photo. So baby's on the way. Okay, awesome. Congratulations, brother.
Thank you. And we'll find out actually any day now what the sex of the baby is going to be. So.
Okay. See, life turns around, right? And if anything, what did you learn? One piece of advice on life while being in prison.
Man, the thing that I took away from prison the most is, it's a shame to go through all that to figure this out, but I always would pride myself on how much I could be doing and get done. Like, I felt like I had this killer instinct, worth ethic, that I could outwork people, out hustle people. And I utilized that to do a lot of stuff. But I also, because of that mindset, made myself crazy. I missed out on a lot of fun opportunities because I was always stressed and doing all these things. In prison, you have no choice but to learn and take every single day as it is and make it a good day, because you'll go crazy if you don't. And I didn't know if that was going to stick with me out here. But, the people that have been in my circle for a long time, they're like, oh, you're so calm now. Like, things don't bother you the way they used to. And it's like, you really learn in prison, whether you believe in God or whatever your higher power it is, you have to just understand that you have to let go of control and just give it up to God, really. For me, my belief kept me going strong. And I've really adopted that to this life, where I think that once I am allowed back to Blackstone Labs, I'll be an even better businessman, because, as they say, like, cooler heads prevail. And I was definitely, I don't think I was a bad guy. I was just really intense for a long time.
Yeah. Well, that leads me into transitioning into Blackstone Labs. So 2 years passes by. So right now, Blackstone Labs is being run by your business partner.
Yeah.
Right? And how is it doing now? Obviously, it probably went down in sales and stuff after you went to jail. But is it okay? Is it kind of growing back and revenue's growing, or how are things right now?
So when I first got out, before I knew that I couldn't be a part of it, and I was like, give me the scoop on everything that's going on.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe how bad it was.
Okay.
And now at this point, my partner Jared wasn't really that involved yet, because I had put all the control onto my dad when I left, thinking this is one guy I know I can trust no matter what.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. My dad, I love him to death, but he developed a opiate addiction.
Oh, okay.
And that was a big thing for me, man. Like, I had to get him into rehab. And it caused a lot of issues with my family. And like, it was bad. I had no idea. People would say to me, people were writing me in prison.
Okay.
And they're like, something's going on with your dad, man. You got to, we're worried about your dad. And I was like, what could it be? I had no idea. So, we had an intervention with him. So at that point, I was like, I had the conversation with my partner, Jared. And I was like, I would really like it if you would please. I should have just asked you to, because Jared's very successful, and he's got a lot of different companies. We put a guy who used to run my call center, Billy Gagliardo. He stepped in and took over the sales, and Jared basically is doing everything else, And once they got my dad out, got him into rehab, things actually started to do better. Okay. And it went from being where there's no way this thing's going to make it to, okay, this thing, it ain't what it was, but it's plugging along at least now. And I wish that I could go get in there and that's my baby, man. I started that thing in a spare bedroom, so the guys that are left, because I used to have 40 employees when I left.
Yeah.
There's only like 7 guys left.
Yeah. Yes.
But they're hustlers, man. I got really good guys over there working. So.
Okay. Good. So then once you get back in, so what are you going to do differently now? You're gonna be back at Blackstone's. You're going to be so yeah, and you're free to do whatever you want after probation. You're free to do whatever fucking business you want to do. So you're back at Blackstone Labs. What's the goal when you're back in there? Is it new products? Is it a different take on things? And I also want to talk about the supplement industry as a whole too, after you kind of explain that first part.
Sure. So the biggest thing is when I left, there was a $2 million debt to High Tech, right?
Okay.
And again, if it wasn't for Jared, I mean, he stayed as loyal as anybody could be, because if he didn't front us that product when we got raided, we would have just crumbled. You know what I mean? Yeah. And he paid the fine for Blackstone when I went to prison. He really saved me. He's been one guy that's been loyal this whole time, no matter what. So I was like, pay the debt down while I'm gone. It shouldn't have been an issue, because we were doing $1 million a month in sales when I went to prison. But when I came home, they were doing a fraction of that. And the debt was actually higher when I got home.
Okay.
So now, even though I'm not a part of the business, this is just what I hear from the hearsay, is the debt is actually lower than it's been in years.
Okay.
So I encourage those guys, just aggressively pay the debt down, run it lean. That way, when I get back, we can put out new products. We can get more creative, because they're really not, you can't expand into territory with new products when you're running that big of a debt. You got to settle your debts before you think that you can get out of something like that. So they should be more than paid back by the time I get back, and then they can start getting creative. But where do I think I'm going to go? It's tough to say, because I think the industry is going to be a lot different in 3 now. It's considerably different in 2 years than when I left.
Yeah. Is it, do you think it's going to be harder now? Or do you think it's oversaturated? Like, what can you do to really build back the business to get to like kind of close to where it was before?
So I think that what carries Blackstone Labs currently is a combination of 2 things. 1, very, very loyal customers, and 2, niche hardcore products like the pro hormones and, the aggressive pre-workout type of products that we have. The industry, yes, I agree with you, is very saturated now. And the biggest fact now is, and I don't care anybody who wants to debate this, it's having a powerful influencer at the top of your brand. Case in point, if you look at like Chris Bumstead, for instance, right? Yeah. He is as popular as anyone that I have ever seen, with exception of maybe Rich Piana, right?
Yeah.
You could take a Rich Piana and a 5% nutrition. Nobody would even know anything about the products. Doesn't matter. It's Rich Piana. They had a lot of success. Rich Piana's gone. The company falls apart, right?
Yeah.
So I've spoken to other, store owners and whatnot when I got out about like Raw, like they say, look, the brand is like 75, 80% Bumstead. He leaves. That's all the appeal. So the key is finding somebody that influential. I used to have a lot of influence over the brand. I used to just be out there in all the videos, slanging products, putting information out. But in many ways, people have forgotten about me. I've been off the scene for a while. So, currently what I'm trying to do is, I didn't think I was going to have to be in this position, is start my own YouTube page after, 12 years of doing it with Blackstone. And build up my personal brand from where I'm at now, kind of a comeback story, a little bit different swing on it, because I'm doing more, over 40, married, having kids type of stuff. Not as exciting maybe as when I was younger, but if I can appeal to a different demographic for when I get back, we've always had a really strong hold over that 18 to 24. Okay, these guys make the strong stuff. I want to try their products. There's a lot more mainstream companies now, but that's not ever really been our niche.
Okay. So you're big on influencers. Some people just don't want to hire influencers anymore. They just don't want to sponsor athletes anymore. But you're big on, like, if you can find a good influencer for your company, get it.
It used to be, it's just changed so much. It used to be, if you had a really good popular bodybuilder, and there were some that were different levels than like if you had Jay Cutler, anything that you were going to do is going to be successful. Ronnie Coleman, anything that you're going to do is going to be successful. Then there was like a second tier of guys that could front a brand, like your Victor Martinez, your Brandon Currys, guys like that. Now your average pro bodybuilder isn't going to bring in any money, and it's no disrespect. There's a lot of great bodybuilders out there. People just don't care as much about bodybuilding as they used to. Now you may find a physique competitor that has a great physique, is ripped, is very good about posting, has 1 million followers, that people just love that guy. And there's a lot more value in that. Or, some of these guys that don't even compete, that just put out kind of like the controversial type of stuff.
Yeah. Okay. That leads me into the next question. What's your current take on the bodybuilding industry right now? Is it growing? Is it expanding? Is it better? Or is it kind of at a plateau and it's like, it's not really kind of getting anywhere from here? Is this as far as we're going to go?
Well, it's evolved a lot. I mean, I see a lot of conversation over, is bodybuilding worse? Is it better? Of course, the guys that are competing now are not going to say that they're worse, No. And now, as a longtime fan, I prefer the 90s era, and it could be because that's when I was coming up and those were the guys I looked up to. I personally still prefer those physiques. There's always debates over why do the 90s guys look better than the guys today, and then there's the argument that the guys today look better, and it's not true. And I do often think to myself that the guys in the 90s look better, but again, things evolved, right? So the physiques are just way different now. You also have all these other divisions now. So I think that there's more than enough divisions. That's for sure.
Yes.
I don't think we need any more divisions. But I think that what they did as a business was good for the business, the guys running it in the IFBB and the NPC. I'm sure they're making plenty of money. If you're a purist bodybuilding fan, then you could really debate, well, maybe you've become a classic bodybuilding fan now. The classic bodybuilding has gotten very popular, but I think that the open guys are the ticket sellers still,
Yeah. Okay. And for the Olympia coming up here, are you going to go to Olympia, or are you?
Not this year. I would have loved to go, but with the amount of stuff that I got to go through, and then just even financially, it's not worth it. But I hope to go next year. So.
Okay. And are you still big up on what's happening and the top guys?
I mean, listen, I got guys now that I got out of prison and got really into following. I really like John Jewett. I think he puts out great information.
Okay. Yes, he does. Yeah.
What he's done with his physique is just very impressive to me.
Yeah.
And then some of the younger guys that have looked really good this year, like Jordan Hutchinson is one.
Yeah.
Martin, man, honestly, I wasn't there, but seeing him and Nick in New York, going by the pictures, man, it looked pretty close.
It was a 1 point show.
So I think there's some exciting stuff going on in bodybuilding, definitely.
Yeah. So let's go right into Olympia picks then. If you no particular order, if you want any particular order, your top 6
for
this open men's bodybuilding.
I think that number 1 is going to be Derek Lunsford. I think it's based on what I've seen in the training videos and everything. I think we're going to see him level up even more.
Yeah.
And I think the closest to him is going to be Hadi.
Yeah.
Now, I think that after seeing Andrew Jack come in and just dominate that show, and the first podcast that I did when I came home, I said, this guy, Andrew Jack, I'm really impressed with him. When he weighed in and everyone's like, oh, he's going to be out of shape, he's 300 pounds. Yeah. He destroyed that show. So
He did.
I'm most interested in seeing him as a taller bodybuilder against everybody else, because we've had some very good tall bodybuilders, like, you know, your Cedric Millens, for instance, that couldn't win that big show. And to me, like, if I wanted to look like one bodybuilder, I would want to look like Andrew Jack. I think of the tall guys, I think he beat Samson.
Okay.
And I think that if he comes in any improved than that, I don't see how anyone. It's hard for me to see him worse than third.
Yeah.
And then I think we'll see Samson right there.
Okay.
And I think you'll see Nick Walker at number 5.
Okay.
And I'll tell you, the 6th spot, that's the one I'm not so sure on yet, because
Hey, Martin.
I think that I was a little bit underimpressed by Hunter Labrada at that show.
Yeah.
But I think he will be better. So I think you'll see either Martin or Hunter in that spot. I think it's been one of those two guys for sure. I was very impressed with Martin.
And there's no Brandon Curry in your top 6.
No.
Just how, yeah. You just think it's kind of past it.
I think his time has come and passed. Although if he's gonna be there, I say he'll hit that 6th place spot.
Okay. Yeah, maybe a little one last shot. I like that pick. That's kind of where I'm leaning right now too. I'm just going to wait a little closer, maybe a week out or so before I make a final top 6. But I'm agreeing with you. I think right now it's top 2 is Hottie and Derek Lunsford for sure, and then it's going to be either Samson or Andrew Jack in that 3rd spot, unless something Nick Walker is just super impressive and something and just really looks more harder and more shredded than Andrew Jack and Samson, which he's done before. So who knows there. But
it's so difficult comparing 5, 6 guys to 6'2", because really my eye goes to Andrew and I'm like, man, that should be the best bodybuilder in the world. That should be Mr. Olympia. But you know, once you start looking at the short guys, they're so muscular. There's so much muscle. It's just a completely different look, especially like where Derek really gets people is in those back shots, that back lat spread. Yeah. It's just crazy top to bottom, you know?
Yeah. Talking about influencers too, real quick, Sam Sulek. And what do you think happened there with him and Hosstile? Like, why do you think he just left after a year? Do you think he became too popular and he's like, I'm going to do my own thing, it's not worth staying here anymore? Or?
So in prison, the guys would ask me if I knew him, and I had never, at this point, I'd never even heard of him. Know. Yeah, because he was like blew up the past couple of years.
Right, right when you were in prison, or during that time, pretty much. Yeah.
So I was like, man, I really don't know the kid. So I was like very interested in looking at his YouTube when I got out, and I was kind of shocked, to be honest with you. He has a lot of muscle. He's he doesn't say anything that's profound, but I guess for his age and how freaky he is, the young kids love him. I have heard that it is difficult to work with Fouad because he has a lot of restrictions on what he wants his guys to do. And I think he's open about it, right? Like he won't let them have podcasts and stuff like that. So
why do you think like does that make sense now? Like, don't you want your athlete wearing a Hosstile shirt going on another podcast? And
yeah, I always wanted my people to do as much as they possibly could. Yeah. What would often happen over the years, like I've had people, we signed a girl, you probably won't even know this name. Her name is Carrie June Bowby, right? I signed her. She had 10,000 followers, cute little girl, right?
Yeah.
She started blowing up with us. And by the time she got to, 200 and some thousand followers, I was paying her a little bit of money, but she was like, listen, people are offering me big time money. And I was like, look, man, go out and do all that you could do. 6 months later, she was like, hey, I think I'm going to start my own company. And she started a company called Mini Beast. Okay. And, I helped her out a lot in the beginning. She made $1 million the first year. So now let's say that I wasn't a cheap ass and just decided to pay her more money.
Yeah.
Maybe I could have brought all that popularity onto the brand. So maybe that's where Fouad is coming from.
Yeah.
Protecting his investment. But I mean, I'm all for, I support entrepreneurship and people want to go out and do their own thing. I think that's great. I think it's, if you try to control somebody too much, they often wind up resenting you anyway, so.
Yeah. I think it's just I don't know if there was any bad blood there. I don't think so. Although there has been a trend of a lot of athletes leaving Hostile. You know,
Mhm.
Nick Walker and Nathan Diasha and Justin Shire, all like within a year. Like it was crazy. So I don't know what's going on over there, but Samson's still there.
Mhm.
So he's holding on to Samson.
Yeah.
What do you think Samson has to do? Like he is obviously his conditioning is his issue.
Mhm.
Um, do you think he can ever become the Mr. Olympia? Do you think he's ever going to bring in that conditioning, just be like, holy shit, he's on another level of condition? Or
Man,
is he just, he's had a lot of
it's
time to get there? It's like,
you look at him and you say, okay, genetically, man, I wish I looked like this guy. He's
yeah,
another one of those, you know. Um, it's kind of like, you know, if I go back to my favorite era, you know, Paul Dillette, right? Like Paul Dillette, how was he not Mr. Olympia? You know, I mean, when he came out, there was one year I think he was second or third, and he was
yeah,
so much bigger
yeah,
than everybody else, but he didn't really have it in the back shots.
no, no,
And I think Samson, it's like the structure and the size is there, but when he hits some of the back shots, for instance, it doesn't come out at you the way that, like, you know, when Ronnie Coleman with his back
yeah,
shots, you just saw everything. You don't have
yes,
that. It just doesn't wow you like that for some
no,
reason. Now, maybe this version of him will be.
yeah.
Um,
And I don't even think it's the muscle or the issue that he has. It's he's got a lot of muscle. He's 290 on stage, but the conditioning in the hamstrings and the glutes
yeah.
seems to be the issue. He just can't get it past a certain level, and then that's it. So
I
it's
think
on.
some guys are afraid to see the scale get down too low.
Yeah,
And I'll
yeah,
tell you, uh, a perfect example is Akeem Williams.
hmm,
When he went down, 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 he got better and better and better. And
yeah,
once he got himself crazy peeled,
yeah,
was when he started winning. And, you know, he
yeah,
was always in the mix, but he came down quite a bit in weight to get to where he needed to be. And I think, you know, that happened to Big Ramy, you know, like when he finally got himself
yes.
down, you know, he won the Olympia.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what it might be with Samson. He's just that scale freaks him out, and he feels like he's getting too stringy or too small,
Yeah.
and he just won't push himself. But question two about the 212. I've been asking a lot of people this now. I mean, Lee Priest is vocal on this. He thinks there should be no 212. He's think you're a bodybuilder, you compete in the men's open bodybuilding. You shouldn't get a hand out or a easier way to try and get your Mr. Olympia title through a 212. What's your take on that? Because there's Keon Pearson. I think he's going to go to open. Like that guy is just
So
Derek Lunsford 2 point. Yeah,
I believe that if he decides to stay in 212 for 10
yeah,
years,
yeah,
he'll win 10 straight times.
yeah.
Um, I just don't see anybody touching him.
I know Sean Clarita. I know Sean Clarita's Team Mutants.
Yeah.
I'm with the, but it's like we see how good Keon's
Yep.
shape is.
I think that Keon is not far off. In fact, he may this year he could probably have stepped in and won a couple of the open shows for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah,
So here's the thing, though. A lot of people are bodybuilding in middleweight bodybuilding and light
hmm,
heavyweight bodybuilding that may never genetically have what Keon has had to get like that.
yeah,
And they may be freaks. Like, listen, Lee Priest was one of the greatest to ever do it.
yeah.
But where are all these other guys going to go that get their pro cards at 5'4"? You know,
Yeah.
there's a lot of them. So I think it's great. It's kind of like when they used to have the tall and short
Yes,
back.
that's what Lee's saying. At least do that. Then they can get as heavy as you want, height,
I think if they
whatever.
had a tall and a short, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And let them, I'd be okay with let them cross over. Like if you're the
yeah,
champion of the short, go and compete against, you know, the tall guys too and see
yeah,
where you but I do think it's you know, you see that there's some guys, right, that have the ability to keep putting that size on
yeah.
at that height, like a hottie, right? Hottie, when he
Derek.
was
Yeah,
212, you're like, this guy is crazy.
yeah,
Same thing with Derek. They grew
yeah,
right out of that division.
yeah,
You know, but a lot of the other guys, they're going to grind and grind and grind, and they'll be 205, and then they'll be 207. You know, it's,
yeah,
you know, and they're good bodybuilders. You know, where would Sean Clarita go? He could go and compete in the open at 175 pounds.
He's won. He's beat Sergio
You
Oliver
know?
Jr. and Regan Grimes in open show before, so he's been able. They're tall. They're 6-footers, so he's
Yeah.
beat them. So he could be in Olympia and get top 6. He may not ever win the Open Mr. Olympia, but he's just like Lee was, battling it, trying to do your best, and that's
Yeah.
it. That's how I look at it. It shouldn't be, well, we'll give it to you because you're shorter and you're
Mhm.
lighter, so you just got to limit yourself to that weight. I mean, I'm sure Sean could get, or Keon could do 220 and look real great if he wasn't
Yeah.
limited to that. But so it's just like I'm starting to see, like, in the 212, in my opinion, isn't the most like popular division. It's not
No.
really popping off or anything. So it's just like, I don't know.
It's it's giving, like I said, these middleweight and light heavyweight guys a place to go compete right away.
Yeah. True. That's true.
The weight classes is strange anyway, because a weight class limit really limits what you can do. That was my whole thing with Keon. So the year that I trained him for the Olympia, I tortured him to make the 180 pounds, right? No steroids. We put a little bit of Anavar, right? A little bit of Anavar. And I was like, afterwards, right? I was like, listen, man, you got to go into the 212. I said, if you go into 212, I believe that you will be Mr. Olympia within 2 years. You have the best genetics of anybody I've ever met. I said, but at 180, we're starving you. You got Chris Bumstead that's 9 feet tall. Like, it's just not going to, you're never going to see your true potential. And we had that conversation in my kitchen where he was like, I'm going to go to 212. I read it in a magazine from prison. Keon Pearson won the Olympia, and I was like, man, I'm so happy.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
That he went in and did it. And like, when I got out, like, seeing him on social media, I'm like, he's going to be a champ for a long time.
Yeah.
So I think for somebody like that, personally, right, he wins it this year, he might just say, all right, I'm ready to go. I've become the Olympia.
Yeah.
I can keep on doing this, or I could go into the open, and maybe he'll want to do that. I know with Flex, because I used to be really, really close with Flex Lewis, right? They had talks with him, and they were like, look, man, if you stay here, you're going to retire the most winningest, 212 Olympia to ever do it. You have a legacy, why upset your legacy just to go and see how you could do in the pro shows? And to me, I almost felt like that was their way of saying, don't go to the open. We want you to stay here. And so that was a weird thing, So I always wondered how Flex would have done because he used to have to really starve himself.
Yeah.
And I feel like it must eat at him a little bit to see what Lunsford did.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if he would have gotten his structure. I think it was a little bit more limited than Lunsford, than like the clavicle, the shoulder region and stuff. So I think he would have been limited. But Keon, I don't think he's at his max yet, 212. I think he's like in the one. So he can probably do a couple more years of 212, just really feeling to get to the top there, 212. And then once he's like trying to drop muscle just to make weight, that's when you're like, okay. That's what Derek Lunsford did. He was like 260 in the offseason. There's no way I'm going to make 212 this year. So
it's great. It's some of these guys, they can carry at that height so much mass. It's nuts.
Yeah. So, well, awesome interview, man. I loved picking your brain here. And so do you have a PJ Braun YouTube channel set already, or are you going to?
I just started a couple of weeks ago. It's PJ Braun Fitness. Yeah.
Okay. I'll put it in the description after. PJ Braun Fitness. And what type of content are you going to be doing on there, just so we get a heads up?
So I'm going to do a lot of bodybuilding, informational. I'm going to bring my podcast back once I move out of where I'm at now. But so far, it's been pregnancy stuff. The protocol that I use, like, hey, you want to know how to get your girl pregnant after 20 years of steroids? Come talk to me. Yeah. It actually happened faster than I was worried, man, because, I didn't want to be that one unlucky guy that after all that is infertile when all my juice head friends have babies,
Yes.
So it only took us a few months. So I'm happy about that.
Good. Well, that's good, man. I'm glad you're doing good and in good spirits, and I'm excited for you to get back with Blackstone Labs and get back into the industry and start going to the expos again. And so you got a lot to look forward to, man. And you got the baby on the way. You're getting married. Like this tells you never to give up, right? When you're down and you're out and everything's against you, just keep pushing forward and be persistent, and you'll make it. PJ Braun is a shining example of that. So
thank you.
Awesome work, brother.
Thank you, brother.
Okay. All right, right. We'll catch you on the next one. Hey, I'd love to come on your podcast whenever
Yeah,
it's
I would love it.
up and
We'll set
going.
it up. Yeah.
Awesome.
All
All
right.
right, guys. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace.
God bless you, man. Thank you.
Thank you.